Dayıların dayısı.
Abilerin abisi be.
Nasılsın, iyi misin?
Sen de 2 sene önce yine bu sarı koltukta buluştuğumuzda
Anlatacağı konu da şu: düşük maliyetli küçük ekiplerle büyük proje yaratmak.
sen şimdi hangisini savunacaksın onu söyle
Abi
bana.
bugün evet, ben de tabii ki 2007'yi savunacağım.
Sen 2007'yi savundun. Shot fire! Shot fire!
Game Jam, Fall Jam sizin için bir Steam oyunu yayınlamak için temel olabilir.
İnanılmaz büyük bir fırsat yani bu hakikaten.
Artık herhalde PlayStation 6'yı görmeyeceğiz.
Şu anda 9 liraya çıktı. 9,5'a doğru gidiyor.
Gidiyor.
Yani ona da gider.
Kafa rahat. Güzel. Evet.
Evet, hepiniz hoş geldiniz tekrar. Şimdiki oturumumuz İngilizce devam edecek. O yüzden Türkçe dinlemek istiyorsanız dil seçeneği değiştirmeyi unutmayın. Welcome everyone. On this panel, Microsoft Senior Business Program Manager and Minecraft Education Edition, Laylah Bulman will talk about Minecraft Esports Education Framework, content development, Microsoft Esports Teacher Academy, and how to partner to expand esports in school. I'm inviting her to join us.
Hi there.
Hello, welcome.
Thanks so much.
You can start whenever you're ready. So I'll be here if you need any help.
I appreciate it. I'm excited to be here. I'm going to share my screen. So give me a moment here so I can share, and then we'll end with some questions, hopefully. Hi, my name is Laylah Bulman, and I am with the Learning Programs team in Minecraft Education Edition. Minecraft Education Edition is, here's our agenda actually, is we're going to go over what Minecraft Education Edition is. I just started getting into it really quickly. I'm going to talk about what we offer. I'll dive really quickly into esports and education. That's really the focus today. Talk about what resources are available to create content and what we're looking for on the Education Edition side for content and our trajectory and roadmap around esports. And I want to make it interactive. So please ask me any questions you have. I'm excited to share Minecraft Education Edition and especially what we're doing for esports in education. So this is Minecraft Education is a part of Minecraft. It is the most popular video game in the world. You may have heard of it. We, as Minecraft Education Edition, actually began about 5 years ago. I believe 2 days ago was our 5th birthday. So we are new in the world of Minecraft. But even though we're new in the world of Minecraft, we're actually really embedded and have really high usage in the tens of millions of students throughout the year. So actually, let me go back a little bit here. Another part of what I do in my work is that I build out all of the content for Minecraft Education Edition in 2 specific areas. I build it out in computer science and I build it out in esports. And what that means is that my role is to build out all of the content, to contract creators and build experiences for students in the game and after school. So the roadmap that I have is to be able to make sure that the content that we make, especially around esports, integrates and fits into the school day and even in clubs outside of school. And that esports is seen as a part of education, for education, and in many cases almost replaces part of the curriculum. So I come to Minecraft Education Edition and esports in a really kind of very funny way. And I have 3 children, they're a little older now, and they say, you are the least likely person to be talking about esports. You play, now I play Minecraft, but you played little Tetris. What are you doing playing esports? So my background is that I was an educator, I was a teacher in a classroom, and I was an administrator for 16 years. And in that time, I launched, at the very beginning, virtual learning, a lot of robotics. 2 of my children are on the autism spectrum. And so what they really couldn't participate in traditional sports after school, like many students around the world. And so I looked for, as a parent and as an administrator in a school, opportunities for students to participate, to lead, to learn that all of the things that sports gives you, leadership opportunities, being creative and problem solving, that they weren't being really allowed to do in a traditional sport. It's a funny story now. But when my first son was about 6 years old, I said, oh, I'll try him in soccer. And in soccer, instead of playing, he would walk the lines of the game. But when he would go into a video game, he was an entirely different person. But like many parents, and particularly with esports, I didn't trust it. It seemed like my kid was grinding away too much as they got older. My kids would grind away. And over in my work, I also began to work with Lego education and doing a lot of competitive STEM and competitive gaming, right? But hands-on gaming, not video gaming. And I saw, like many parents, oh, well, there's an opportunity for students that are typically non-included. So really about inclusion and creating additional access as possible through video games. And I'll go to the next step of how this person and I'm from Miami, Florida. I'm now in Seattle. It's about 6 o'clock in the morning here. How I got into esports and built out essentially what we're doing now in Minecraft esports. So I come home from work one day. I'm very tired, like many parents. I have to go make dinner. And I come home and my entire living room is dark. I see the 2 screens, 2 monitors glowing. I see my 2 boys playing. I see my daughter in the back of this room. My entire dining room has been now converted into an unusable space. I didn't know what it was. And of course I come home, I'm tired and I get angry. I say, well, what are you doing? Get off the screens. Maybe not the best parenting moment. I was probably a lot angrier than I'm sounding now. I don't think that my experience was very different from many other parents around the world. We know impacting the Chinese government that there's been a limitation and a crackdown on game playing, right? For 1 hour a week, whether it's Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. That's a really draconian response. Thankfully, in other locations around the world, there's freedom to play. But I, as a parent, didn't want that. I saw video gaming as something that was really hurting my kids. And I said, you don't even have friends. All you do is sit in front of you're wasting your life. And this time they invited me in. They said, oh yeah, why don't you see what we're doing? So they invited me into their Discord. I saw that they were leading ranked games. I can't remember, I think it was Rainbow Six Siege. And they were playing with students from around the world. And in the back of the room, where I saw their younger sister, she was producing their stream and they had 300,000 subscribers. And I said, in my own home, I have 2 ranked players. I have a highly successful stream and I didn't even know. And secondly, I didn't even value it. And that for me was an epiphany. It was a really eye-opening experience as to what esports could do, especially for students and for people that didn't have access before. So there was access around, not gaming per se. I didn't think that my kids were going to become pro players, but they were leaders, they were organizing, they had a team, they had a show, they were learning about streaming, communication, a number of different skills that they had never had access in the traditional school environment. And I left that experience and, kind of fast forward, I launched at that time what was the very first statewide in the United States esports league for students. So I started what was called the Florida Scholastic Esports League. We had 2 million students available to play. Florida is a very large state. When I just went and asked school districts, are you interested? They immediately created teams. There was such demand in schools for esports teams for students that had no space and place to play in an organized way. So that's a kind of a longer story to talk to you that esports and education is about really 2 things, right? It's about, and I'll get a little bit more into it, but it's about giving access, creating equity, and making an inclusive space to connect kids to profession. And Minecraft is a great place for students to be able to begin that esports journey. And Minecraft is also a great place for content creators and game makers to be able to create opportunities for students in esports, which is what I do. It's an interesting story to me. And I think because when you're making games, think about that. Think about what we offer in Minecraft or what you want to offer in your own game and what's possible in schools. And it's evolving, it's changing, but I'll get a little bit more into that. So I've talked to you about what Minecraft is. Minecraft, of course, is the most popular video game in the world, and we're building out games in the education edition. Now, before I get into very specifically esports, I want to tell you why Education Edition is a great way to begin your esports content inside the game. Why do schools want Minecraft? On the technical side, because it's a secure login, it's a secure game. Minecraft Education Edition takes no data. That's very important. We take no data from students or from schools. Student data privacy is extremely important. And many titles keep that data. So they're never going to enter a giant school, the giant market that is education, until you protect student data. So Minecraft Education Edition is being a part of Minecraft and Microsoft. Its login is secure. Data is secure. And there's opportunities, and I'll go over it now here, for schools to be able to lock down areas where they are concerned. But we also have a huge community of educators, particularly in esports. I'll talk about the thousands of esports teachers that we have in our Minecraft community. We have we have curriculum, we have more than 500. We have, actually over 1,000 lessons. We have the ability to build code in the game. And you'll see here, we have multiplayer. Actually, it's now up to 40 students. You can actually have up to 40 players in one world, in a protected world for an esports game. Now, 40 players is probably a lot for an esports game, but you can have that. So, in Minecraft, we want to build a better world through the power of play. And I was joking earlier that, play is almost like a dirty word in school, even though we know through evidence that play, free play, whether physical or digital, is the way that students learn. It's where they feel unencumbered, where they communicate with one another, where they learn how to share, take turns. And as they get older, they learn to be strategic, to lead, to be able to have empathy, to make decisions and solve problems. And all of these skills are the skills that they need to be successful in the future. Play, specifically digital and competitive play, allows students to be prepared for these skills that are not typically taught in schools. So how can we use play to build a better world, and through esports specifically? So in our esports, and in fact, all of our content, we focus right now on the social impact of play. So sustainability, equity, and what we call future-ready skills. These three pillars align the content that we are making. And really what schools are looking for when they say, well, what's a digital learning platform that is game-based learning? So when we talk about these future-ready skills, what can be taught through game-based learning in schools and through competitive play, these 7 C's, being able to collaborate, communicate, which I've mentioned earlier, critical thinking to solve problems, and being creative, the top. These are the high-level skills. In addition to those, right, so these future-ready skills, that it's cross-cultural. Students need to have as many opportunities to be in a global environment. They're not typically given opportunities to be in a global environment, to speak with students from around the world, to compete with students from around the world outside of esports. So it does that in Minecraft because our community is so huge. Computing. So we have the opportunity in esports, in Minecraft, and also outside of esports, to teach students how to use computer science and coding in the game in a competitive way. You can't do that in many other games, but you can in Minecraft. So when schools are looking for esports, they say, oh, you include coding, you include computer science in your esports. They're really interested in that approach. And the last is around career and self-reliance. So Certainly career, and I'll go over that later, but career connections in esports and education have to be really clear. You have to be able to show how what you're making or what's being done in esports and education is connected to a career pathway. And that career pathway probably shouldn't be, being a professional gamer, although that certainly does happen. And the second is self-reliance. And so essentially having students become resourceful, learning how to monitor themselves. You can't tilt in education esports, right? You'll get kicked off the team like in any other team, right? If you, show anger or you show unsportsmanlike conduct, you get kicked off or you get a yellow card in soccer or a red card. But in esports and education, you need to learn how to self-monitor, no tilting, treat each other well, no toxic behavior. So those incredible skills that can be taught in esports and education, those transfer across life. So esports in the Minecraft and education world is a little different from what we typically see, but that's important also. And I want to focus on that last one of self-reliance, because we've seen the research show that when you have students doing esports early, even like ages 11, 12 in a competitive, organized, and team-based way, that students learn, number one, to monitor themselves, emotionally regulate themselves, so they emotionally regulate others, right? These are incredibly important skills that people don't typically see. That story I told you about me thinking that my kids weren't regulating themselves, they weren't grinding, right? They were leading, but I didn't see that. I didn't value that at the time. And our research demonstrates that students are doing that. And very importantly, esports and education shows attainment. What that means is that kids who are doing esports in an organized way in school actually have higher grades, higher attendance, lower discipline problems, and eventually higher graduation, or what we call lower dropout rates. So these are all elements that are really important as you build content or trying to build an esports program in K-12, right? In schools that become a pipeline for your industry. Well, we also demonstrated that in Minecraft, very specifically and different from other kinds of esports games, has more intrinsic motivation versus extrinsic motivation. So the pressure in esports games or video games in general around incentives and points and the leaderboard, while those do exist, the intrinsic motivation for students to stay in the game, be engaged and stay longer minutes in the game is not about the points, but about being social and having a goal and mastering something. Typically in Minecraft, that's been that creative outlet, and you can do this in creating esports in the game. I put this quote here because I think it's really important for those that are entering esports education, whether it's Minecraft or not, to understand what is it that educators and educational leaders are looking for, right? So we know, right, that when you're making a curriculum or you're making your game, you don't advertise the game as being easy. As someone who's watched thousands of hours of Rainbow Six and certainly thousands of hours of Minecraft esports, we don't say it's an easy game. We say it's a challenging game, right? Because easy is boring. Challenging games where kids have to build and construct together, that's what makes a game popular and also connects it with school. So when you think about even your own educational experience, when you think about your favorite teacher and why that person was your favorite teacher, or your favorite experience, if you didn't have a favorite teacher in school, it was because they challenged you. They believed in you. There was a relationship there, or you mastered something that was difficult in that course and you were successful. Video gaming and game-based learning in a competitive format does the same thing. It's constructivist learning. So it shouldn't be easy. Minecraft education, like any other good, strong esports experience, is challenging. So I say that because I think it's, there's concern there. I'm going to also talk about, a lot of you here are content creators. So I do want to talk about some of the very specific elements of the game for content creation. Should you be interested in making esports in Minecraft, we are always looking for content creation and content creators and building out that ecosystem. That's what I do. I'm always looking for creators. We have a pretty strong ecosystem in esports and in general in Minecraft education, and we're always looking to amplify that and make it more inclusive and global. We're a global game. We are played in over 190 countries around the world. We have, I said, tens of millions of players in our education game. It's available in almost every single school district as part of their volume license for Office 365. So when you're making or thinking about creating content for esports inside of Minecraft, these are some elements. Again, making sure that it's localized, making sure that you protect the game. We also make ease of use. So we make it very easy for students to have join codes that are protected. And we have a library. And in that library, so when you think about the content, we give students and teachers the opportunity to turn off and turn on elements in the game and settings so that those settings make management of the game in the classroom easier. So these classroom settings allow for, like, for example, as you can see here, perfect weather, allowing or not allowing destruction, which is important in the game, player versus player damage. All of these settings can be toggled. And so when you're creating your game, you're thinking about that classroom environment. In addition, we also have what's called immersive reader. So again, really important as you're thinking about the language that you utilize in your game. In Minecraft education, immersive reader, and also for literacy, immersive reader allows for any text inside your game to be read to a student. So students that have difficulty reading, students that are challenged in their literacy, students with dyslexia, and there are so many of them, take advantage of immersive reader in our game, or particularly in Minecraft education games, to be able to move ahead. Now, why does that matter? Because again, it's about inclusion, making sure all students can participate in the esports experience in Minecraft education that you would make. Also, with immersive reader, the games are localized. So you can write the game in any language that you choose, and it can appear in a game that we localize. So for example, if you write the game in Turkish, it can appear in any of French, German, Japanese. We localize in 29 languages. We also have blocks in the game that allow for controlling where students can play, and I'll show you the esports world that we've created, as well as allow and deny blocks, because we do have students that like to grief in esports and try to destroy each other's work. We'll talk about what that looks like and why you can't do that. In addition, we give the abilities to fly, to mute, to have world builder. Again, when you're making content for us, and hopefully some of you are in this call today, this webinar, are considering making content for us, being able to give teachers specifically the ability to fly or to mute others, really important to control that classroom, what's happening during the game. So we have this classroom mode as well that allows teachers to see, well, who's on the roster, what chat is being said. So all of these control features that, for example, you think in a leaderboard in Smash GG or with the chat functions in Discord, we include those in our classroom mode so that the esports experience is safe for students. In addition to that, we have different features in the game that allow for assessment. So for teachers or for students to demonstrate what they've done and what they've learned in the game. We have code builder in the game so that you can code in the game and you compete in coding. And we have a lot of content. So I'm going to share with you here if you've never seen Minecraft Esports Education, Minecraft Education Edition, what it looks like. And I'm gonna, let's see if this works. I have been having computer problems today. So let's see if I can do here. I'm gonna play it like this just because it's a little bit difficult for me. So here they're entering the game, there's no sound. There's lots of different worlds. They can enter into the library. They can build, identify a forest biome, for example, and they can just build in this game. So entering the library is very, very easy. Thanks for your patience with my computer issues today. We also have Code Builder. So Code Builder allows you to build code. You'll see here it's built on a URL for Make Code. We have the ability for students to code in a competitive way in block coding, in JavaScript, as well as Python. Here's an example of a student utilizing code in a competitive way. So you'll see the agent there. They're now selecting what content, they're going to build something utilizing Cobblestone. And what they do here is they will automate building. This is where the speed running comes in, or speed building, what typically would take a lot of time grinding away in a traditional game. Utilizing the agent and utilizing coding not only connects with skills that schools are interested in utilizing, in this case coding, but also allows for speed running and speed build, which are incredibly important parts of the game, especially because esports is meant to be time-based. So you're seeing here, they're building a wall, they're actually competing to build a castle in this particular game that you're watching. You'll see that when students see that they can spawn, all of their animals in code, that they can build very quickly in code, that it doesn't take grinding away, they get very excited because they realize, I want to learn to code so I can be a better gamer, I can be a better competitor, I can have a better team. So there's this, again, intrinsic motivation, right, to learn something that typically is seen as pretty complicated. Whereas before, maybe say, oh, I don't want to code, it's really hard for me, or they don't have the persistence. They realize that in Minecraft, wow, that's really fast, I want to learn. So in our esports games, we do have what are called build challenges or build competitions. And computer science is a strong part of it, especially when the builds are large and when the challenges are time-based, which they typically are. So you're going to see here how quickly the student, by the way, is just kind of sitting there watching, and the agent does all of the building for them. But more importantly, what's happening here is that while the agent is building for you, you can compete doing other activities. I'm going to go to the next slide here, so I can play this video. So what I was saying is that while someone is playing somewhere else, while the agent is building that wall right now, inside, students are actually building other parts of their build challenge and taking pictures and sharing that, so that you can see in an esports environment, you can have multiplayer, multi-action, and then students share that work with the teacher. I will now go to the next slide. So a good example of a recent challenge that we did was the I Love New York challenge. We had it, our first time in the city of New York. We had over 1,500 student submissions. In this case, students had a challenge, an esports challenge, again, build a better world, to create and compete. So they had these live prompts, and they had to build as teams how to improve New York and how to improve their community in New York. So I'm going to give you an example of what that looked like really fast.
My name is Glenn Tatum, and I have redesigned the Inwood Hill Nature Center.
Let me see if I can do it like this. No, it's not going to let me.
My name is Glenn Tatum, and I have redesigned the Inwood Hill Nature Center in Manhattan's Inwood Hill Park. The center was damaged in 2012 by Hurricane Sandy and never repaired. Located on a peninsula in the park and surrounded by water, this new public space will be called the Inwood Hill Culture and Nature Center. The new center has several features and is two-story plan.
So I'm going to just stop right here. This was a build that was done by a team in high school. They were given a prompt. They were told, improve your community, align it to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. You only have a certain period of time to do it. and they had a live build in our esports arena, which I'll share shortly. So this is the result of team building, skills, and in a short period of time in a competitive way. I will tell you, I'll give you kind of a sneak preview. This was on Twitch and this was on ESPN.
At the front entrance, there's an art exhibit and there are several areas of seating. There are multiple nature exhibits along with an area for group instruction and the book library. Going back down the hallway, you can see many windows to allow natural light and views of the park. At the end of the hallway, there is an ADA elevator to go to the second floor. There is also a new outdoor deck over the water. Heading back from the deck into the Nature and Culture Center and past the registration desk, we head up the staircase to the second floor. Here, there is a multi-purpose area that can be used for exercise instruction, music concerts, and small parties. Heading back down the hallway, there is also a small outdoor deck for people to relax and enjoy views of the water. The new Inwood Hill Culture and Nature Center will be a great public space for the people of New York City to come and enjoy with their families and friends.
So this was done in about a 1 hour build challenge in a competitive format. And I did say to you that it was on Twitch. So I'm going to go back to share a little bit here.
My name is...
Sorry, here we go. Let me go here. So we did have what was called the Battle of the Boroughs. We had this Battle of the Boroughs. This first year was a challenge. The second year, we built it out across the city of New York again. This challenge of students to build a better world, to build areas in their communities in a challenge format and time-based in a team was on Twitch. We had, I think, 500,000 views on Xbox. And we also had, we were then in July, we were on ESPN. And I remember being in a restaurant that had like a little bar area with a television and looking up and thinking, oh my gosh, it's 8 o'clock on a Saturday night on ESPN, and I'm watching Minecraft esports. Around the world, this is being watched. So if you think that Minecraft esports is a small thing, it's actually an ESPN thing. And so the opportunities for creators and for students to build skills in a license and in a game that schools accept, because you're not going to see Fortnite and you're not going to see Overwatch and you're not going to see League of Legends inside of school for the reasons that I mentioned before. It's not protected, it's hard to log in, and schools don't see the educational value of that kind of play, but they see the educational value. They know that we protect, and it's easy to access our licenses in K-12 esports. So Minecraft is a very powerful way to build out your brand as a creator inside the game. So I'm going to talk to you about our Esports Teacher Academy and how we built out this community and what our esports subject kit looks like. So in EDU, for example, in the United States, as an example, there are over 200 scholarships right now for students to play esports in higher education that is growing around the world. I know that there are several in, for example, in MENA, in Middle East, North Africa, that is growing in popularity as well. There's over 500 million players in esports. There's over 15,000 esports clubs in their teams just in North America alone. For example, these are probably about 25,000 globally. And really importantly, 75% of families identify a gamer in their family. 75% of families identify a gamer in their family. The market clearly is there. We're having this conference because of the popularity of gaming. I don't have to convince you of that. But what that means is in a classroom, there's more than one gamer in that classroom. So what we're trying to do is connect the students' passion for esports and gaming with their education. So what's the evidence? I shared with you before that we're connecting disengaged students and we have better learning outcomes. And we also have examples very specifically around inclusion with Minecraft esports. So this, at the beginning of the summer, in Chicago public schools, after a year of COVID, they were looking at a 25% absentee rate. 25% of students essentially became lost. They couldn't find them. And so they needed to create a program that would give an incentive for students that really didn't feel after a year that they belonged to in a school environment. They felt excluded. They didn't see really a reason to come back. They created an esports challenge, very similar to what we saw with Battle of the Boroughs. But instead of it being at the end of the school year, they began it at the beginning of the school year. They gave students, medals. They gave the opportunities to play with great, devices. They were part of a team before school even began. And the winners of this, very large city esports challenge in Minecraft was a group of girls that had never ever played Minecraft before. And what that tells you is it's also really an easy onboarding experience when you're creating your esports games in Minecraft. The framework for esports and education is really built in these 4 different domains. So you'll see at the very middle, the players of gaming, important, right? Again, it's organized, it's competitive, it's time-based, there's points, there's winners and losers. But it goes beyond that. There's opportunities for students to learn skills around strategy and organization, creating content, and being entrepreneurs. Now, and I'll go more specifically so that you can visualize this. And this is what I did when I first started building out my esports tournaments, frankly, because I knew that parents didn't understand esports, and I knew that schools were really hesitant in incorporating esports in K-12. I also knew I wanted to build out this industry, and I wanted to build out a pipeline into higher education. I wanted to build a pipeline into industry. So I made sure that when I had tournaments and I created experiences, that while there was playing in the center, anybody who came to a tournament could also see what was happening, what students had made in these other areas. So this framework that you see before you is actually the result of evidence and research from the University of California at Irvine, where they studied students playing esports for about 3 years around the world. And they determined that students actually naturally organize themselves in these 4 different domains. And when done purposely, and so what I did was I took this framework and I literally made this into my floor plan for my tournaments. So that when students played, and I had tournaments happening, and there are parents and there are educators, there's community members, certainly being streamed. You also saw all of the work by the content creators that are part of that club or part of that team, because not every player, not every team member is playing during a game. So we demonstrated what shoutcasters did. We demonstrated how to stream. We demonstrated the blogs that were being made by students around esports and the merch that they were selling, for example, as entrepreneurs. We talked about how they marketed the students, not in esports, how they marketed the games and how they marketed the tournaments, and how they managed and coached their team, and how all the data analytics behind it. So when people outside of esports education say, oh, they're just gaming, it's a waste of time. Actually, when they instead, in this approach, utilizing these 4 domains, the very first thing that people see is, oh, student learning. And then they accept the fact that esports and education is a powerful tool. So this framework is the framework also that undergirds what we do in Minecraft esports and education. We ensure that there's play and learning outside of the game, and that's always connected to learning, and that it's around themes that are really relevant to students. So, I've showed you a couple of things around sustainable development goals and equity that matters to this generation. It matters to them that you're making a better world. So when you think about the kinds of themes in esports and education, those themes are particularly valuable and connect to what they're learning. So in our esports, we make sure that you're learning through competition. We want to make sure that you leverage the creative aspects of Minecraft, but it's super fun, right? Obviously fun forward, fun first, but also really challenging. It has to be challenging, and they have to have these creative build battles. So in our subject kit, in our library inside of the game, you have 11 make and model worlds. So you have 11 arenas. Each arena has a different theme. So themes like, I'm not sharing some of those with you, but pirate ships to kind of fantasy worlds, gardens, inspirational arenas for build battles. We also have practice arena battles. So there's no timer, there's no leaderboard or points, where you can see multiple teams just practicing their builds in a competitive way. We also have what are called 11 code to create worlds. So these are essentially the same make and model worlds, but instead of the traditional building, students have to compete utilizing their code. We have what are also called creative clash worlds. And frankly, this is where I kind of see this 2.0 of Minecraft esports. And if you're considering working with Minecraft, and Minecraft education very specifically to create esports worlds, this creative clash worlds, I think is where there's a lot of opportunity for growth with us. So these are more traditional games where students work in teams and are looking to build points to identify a winner or loser. So whereas make and model and code to create are open-ended build challenges, there's not automatic points. Certainly in creative clash worlds there are. I would look at one game that was sponsored by the State Department called Farmcraft by NASEF, the North America Scholastic Esports Federation. So if you were to look at Farmcraft, and it's available, the world is free for you to download, you'll see that the game is, again, it's organized and it's team-based and it's a competitive challenge with a winner-loser, but it also incorporates a point system where the better your outcome is in terms of your farming, the higher points you get as a team, but there's trade-offs in the game. So that kind of game, that kind of creative clash, I think is an opportunity for growth. We also have what's called a challenge series. So a challenge series is sort of a do-it-yourself approach for schools to say, oh, I don't know if I'm ready for esports, but we provide for them the arenas and the order in which you can have a build challenge and then have your own kind of finale and tournament semifinals and finals. In addition, we provide for teachers all of the materials that they would need to support it. That means we give them a framework, we give them the research, we provide for them the PowerPoint decks, we give them the rubrics and the playbooks, we provide videos. All of those elements we expect our content creators to also make, so that the game that they're building for us is easily usable inside an educational environment. So I'm going to share with you what this looks like. If I can. I have to minimize my screen again.
Avast, my hearties. Welcome to Pirate Cove, a custom Minecraft minigame set on an island of villainy and pirate plunder. Pirate Cove features two of the finest ships in the South Seas, a village of scurvy dogs and scoundrels, an unfathomably large skull, a purely defensive cannon, careful now, and a really, really big chest of gold. Pirate Cove is part of the Make and Model Esports series, a team-based Minecraft building game that stretches imaginations and creativity to the max.
Okay, that's one.
Buzz. Welcome to Busy Bee's Nectar Hunt, a custom Minecraft minigame set in a giant flower-filled garden, featuring beehives, flower beds, giant trees, a watering can, and a garden gnome. Nectar Hunt is part of the second generation esports series, a team-based Minecraft nectar gathering game designed to test your team skills and competitive strategies. Set in an enormous garden, students play as bees, working together with their teammates to collect nectar for their hive. Two hives compete against each other, collecting nectar from the flowers across the garden and returning it to the hive to be banked. Placing nectar in the hive fills the glass jar with honey, and the winner is the first team to completely fill the jar to the top.
So these are two examples of make and model and creative clash. I know we're running out of time, so I just want to move forward a little bit. We also had most recently another build challenge in partnership with UNESCO called the Peace with Nature Challenge, where students had a build challenge. Again, it's an esport where they had to address the UN sustainability goals and improve how they live with nature. In other words, around conservation and coexistence with nature. So I'll give you a quick background of where we are right now in Minecraft esports. So we built our huge Minecraft worlds, and where we've seen the number of, I think we're now at 500,000. This was made a while ago. So over 500,000 views of our playbook. We've had tons. I think we're now at 10,000 people in our online professional development course called Esports More Than Just a Game. I think now it's at 500,000 views of Twitch of our Battle of the Boroughs on ESPN with Xbox. That was 500,000. The launch of our esports subject kits, which I just shared. And then we had Meta, so our esports teacher academy. So in August, we launched our Microsoft esports teacher academy, incredibly popular globally around the world. We'll be launching it again in February, and building our community in esports with esports teachers. The power of that is that after the esports teacher academy, teachers started an esports club right away. It was probably one of the most popular professional development courses that Microsoft has actually ever had, and I'm very proud to have developed that. And what that also tells you is that there's a strong desire in education by educators to understand what esports means and incorporate it into their schools in a way that matters and is valuable. Teachers especially loved the social emotional learning components of esports. So when you think about what matters in education and getting your games in education, it's about the social emotional learning and those skills that they can get around careers, not being a pro gamer, but the future ready skills that schools that are as part of their mission. And also that it's fun. I mean, they love that creative clash. They love being inspired by making new games. They want to see that. So what's next for Minecraft esports? We're building out our community. We're building more courses and more professional learning opportunities. And like I'm talking to you today, we're building more content. And we invite you to be a part of that content creation and our professional learning experiences. So please aka.ms/Minecraft esports to learn more. And the last bit, if you're considering making great content and joining us and making content for Minecraft esports, here's what we're looking for when we look at what makes great content. Learning at the top, language throughout the game, that reading level that matches developmentally appropriate, technically accurate, right? Fun, challenging, that kids can progress, that they interact and communicate with one another, and that they can celebrate. There has to be fun. You got to be able to celebrate that you won. So I want to thank you very much. I think we have very little time for Q&A, but I want to thank you. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thanks a lot, Laylah, for joining us today. Yeah, we have one question from Kerem. He asks, since our generation and myself experience school with grading mentality, reward and punishment methods, can you explain what are students' motives in playing these games especially? How do you decide a student is successful? How can a student from an e-sport educated generation implement him, her, and herself to a world without this specially cared bubble and community?
Okay, got it. All right, so I'm going to go over each of these questions first. What are the motives for playing these specific games? Fun, that it's fun. For student motivation, fun, leadership, the opportunity to be a leader of a team, and to win. But they also, and I want you to keep aware of this, there's so many students that don't see themselves as gamers. So don't cut yourself out in esports by only focusing on the gamers. There are so many students that want to build content, that want to be journalists in esports, that want to be organizing. They want to be around esports, but they don't necessarily see themselves as gamers. So when you're thinking about motivation, it's that a lot of these students right now, they don't necessarily think that they belong in school. They have a passion for esports, or they have or they're really interested, they watch it, kind of from the outside, but they don't participate because they don't think they're good enough, but they want to get better. So connect that passion, right, and that interest for opportunities for schools. Second question is, how do you decide if a student is successful? That's a fantastic question. In build challenges, specifically, that can be subjective, right? Because there's a rubric, and you as a teacher, you would make a rubric, but it is subjective. It is. You decide, you have judges, and the judges decide who's a winner and a loser. And that's why in my presentation, I said there's a greater opportunity, kind of a 2.0 version of esports around creative clash games, where there's a clear winner and loser in terms of points, right? How much honey went into the jar? The team that got the jar first filled wins. So we're looking at those kinds of games that are still about thinking, that are challenging, but looking at a point system. And the last question you have is, how can someone implement this world without being in this bubble? Well, the bubble matters in education. Remember, in the education environment, you're not going to get your game into K-12 unless you create that bubble. Safety first. Family safety, student safety first. So the bubble matters in K-12. That's the mission of schools, is to prepare future citizens, right? Future thinkers, future yous. You're here because you're obviously somebody that's kind of future facing. So the bubble and community matter, but that bubble in school is protected. But outside of school is giving opportunities to compete with students from around the world. And don't forget the teachers. The teachers are your gatekeepers. So give them a community. That's not a bubble. Create a community. It can be in Discord. If you go to Discord right now and look up esports education, it's a massive community. They want to incorporate what you're making and build that out. I hope that answers the question.
Okay, thanks a lot. Yeah, I think it's a great answer from your side. And thanks a lot for joining again. Hope to see you soon.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.